Hi everyone, I'm Erin Thompson of Everyday Expressions. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am excited to join Picket Fence Studio for their Celebrate Together June 2024 release. And so what I created for you today is a lovely layered background card. And the whole idea about this, it came about because I have these cute Kelly Taylor designed stamps called Surprise It's Your Day. And I love those heart balloons. And I really wanted to use them. But I have to tell you, sometimes I just don't feel like coloring. And they're adorable colored. A lot of the designers have created pretty cards with the colored balloons. And as much as I love those, I just didn't have the energy to color today. So I wanted to think of a way to create a card using those stamps, but not have to color it. And I assume if I feel that way sometimes, I know a lot of you might feel that way too. And so that was the whole idea for this card. How can I use some of these really pretty elements that have been released in this collection, but use that stamp and not have to color? So I began by using the new Birthday Bash Fabulous Foiling Toner card fronts. And I showed you a second ago, they have this really pretty bokeh effect and all the pretty rainbow colors. So I picked one of those. They come in A2 size, and I trimmed it down just a little bit. And don't throw that piece away. You see, I set it aside. That would be really pretty to use as just an accent piece on the side of another card. So I trim it down to a landscape A2 card, and I layer it with just some white cardstock. And you see I'm adhering those together. And this, if you see some of my cards or you follow me on Instagram, you'll see this is a sketch that I actually like to use quite often. Give it a little bit of space at the top and the bottom and layer it up with pretty different backgrounds. And it's just a really nice kind of layout sketch for cards. So you'll see I use it quite often. So here's the stamp set with the pretty grouping of balloons. And what I decide to do is break up that really bright background and do some heat embossing on some vellum. And that way I can still use these cute stamps, give it a little bit of interest, but yet it'll show up from the bright background by using the vellum. So I put a piece of vellum and the stamp in the MISTI, and there you see I'm just conditioning it with my hand. And now I've found this really pretty Wow embossing powder that I just have in my stash. Add some anti-static onto the vellum. And I think I cut that strip to be a little over 6 inches. And then that way it can easily wrap around each side of the 5.5 piece of cardstock. So there I'm just going to ink up the stamp. And because I've put it in my MISTI and I have my stamp placed, you'll see that once I stamp it and heat emboss it, then I'm just going to move the vellum down in my MISTI, and it can hang out, it'll be fine. But that way I can just easily kind of go along and move the vellum so that the balloons are placed where I want them, kind of moving up and down along that strip of vellum. So I've stamped it, and now I'm going to heat emboss it. And when you're using embossing powder on vellum, I think the trick is to really wait a second, let your heat gun warm up, maybe give it a little heat from the back to begin the melting process, and then move your heat tool kind of quickly, and once you see it melted, move along, and that way you'll have less warping on your vellum. I think the other trick is to also use very good vellum. So there you see, I've moved it down, and I'm not going to let my MISTI lid stamp on the vellum. I'm going to hold it a little bit to figure out where I want it placed, kind of eyeball it, and then I'll open it back up again. I'll get my vellum placed, I'll move my magnets to hold it, and that way I'm not having any of the embossing ink transfer before I know exactly where I want it to stamp. And there we go. I open it back up, and now I'm going to ink it back up again. And I'll just move it right down the strip for each stamp. And I don't stamp all of them at once because I'm always afraid. I know myself, and I am going to mess it up. If I did it one, if I keep stamping and then do all of the embossing at one time, I know I'm just not going to place it exactly where I want it. So you could do that, but I do each stamp and then do the embossing powder and heat it. And so there we go. We're going to heat that stamp and then move right on down the line. And I love this look. And this embossing powder gave it a little bit of twinkle and a little bit of silver. So it wasn't exactly transparent, but it's not a heavy, opaque look either. And it gave, I think it gives just enough interest on the background on this vellum. So you definitely still see the stamped image, but I did not have to color. Now I would say another thing you could do, and I thought about doing this if you wanted to add something a little extra, is I do love to Copic color on the back of vellum when you have heat embossed on the front. It would have given it just a little bit of color, and it's really easy. You don't have to do several steps in marker coloring. You could just use one kind of bright color and it would give it a really soft effect on the front. And I could have done that just to add a little bit more, but I just wanted something quick and easy and no coloring for this card. And there you go. See how pretty that is? You still get the balloons and the effect, but no, did not need to pull out those markers this time. And look how pretty that looks over the that birthday bash panel. It kind of softens the bright colors a little bit too. And that way it will not detract from our focal point when we do the die cutting for the happy birthday. And see, that looks nice. So I've already layered the white panel with the birthday bash, and now I put the tape on the back, and I kind of do this the lazy way. I could score it, measure it out and score it, but I wrap one end around. I'm very careful about where I want it, and then I just lay it flat and pull the piece tight and use my fingers to fold it over. And I could use a bone folder also to give it a nice crease, but I just use my fingers there. And now I'm going to add foam tape to the back. Just for, you know me, I need a little bit of dimension, so I'm going to pop that up. And then I actually am using my glue press here. I'm adding glue to the back of my foam tape because what you didn't see is that the first time I tried to put it on a card base, I didn't get it placed very well. So I pulled it back off, and this time I wasn't lazy and I added glue so that I've got some wiggle room in my placement on my card front. And it gives us about 1/8 of an inch. At the top and the bottom, you see the black card base. And there we go. That glue definitely gives you that wiggle room to be able to place it exactly where you want. And now you'll see I'm going to use the birthday, the Scripty birthday. I cut that out of black cardstock. And I just realized in looking at this that I don't think I ever pulled the little black dot for the eye out of the die and put it on my card. So we'll see when we get to the end, there's no dot on my eye, but shh, don't tell anybody. Nobody else will know. They won't notice, I don't think. And I don't know if you would have noticed if I hadn't told you, but it just occurred to me. I meant to go back and do that. I saw it in the die and I thought, oh good, that'll save it so I don't lose it, and I'll go back and place that. So I'll have to go do that before I send it to someone. So now I'm creating a panel of that same embossing powder, and now I'm going to die cut the happy out of that. And what, something I did do at the beginning, and I was doing my introduction, so I didn't talk about it. But at the beginning of the video, you saw I took an A2 card base, and not a card base, an A2 panel, and I die cut the happy die out of the middle of it. I used a ruler. I found the middle of it and I measured so that I was certain that the happy was right in the middle of that A2 panel, and ran it through the die machine, popped those letters out. And what that did was create a template for this die. And now when I go back and place the letters, I will know that they're pretty much centered on the front of my card, and I'll be happy with it, because I find when I have individual letters, unless I purposefully kind of put them on there wonky, going every which way, I can never get them straight. Even if I use a T ruler, I don't know what it is. I just have a hard time getting individual letters placed well. So I always like to create a template if I can. So that's what I did earlier, and you saw that at the very beginning of the video. So you'll see I'll pull that back out in a second. The other thing that I like to do is when I have letters that in a focal point like this, I will often create a drop shadow. So I have die cut them from the embossing powder, but now I've also created a background of party dress ink, and I went direct ink to paper. And then I die cut another set of the happy out. And now I'm going to layer the embossed letters over the pink ones. And I kind of drop them down. I drop the background to the side and down and create that shadow. So here I'm showing you how I like to hold it with tweezers, add some glue to the top letter. And often I will tap off the excess glue on a piece of scrap paper and before taking it to the other die cut. And then that way it's not a real glue. I don't get a lot of mess with the glue everywhere. So I think now I'm going to speed it up and show you quickly adhering all of the other letters. And there I'm tapping off the excess glue with the A. And then just make sure if you had the first letter, the H, raised and the shadow dropped in below, you just want to follow that pattern. There is my template. So I add that over, and now I'm taking a pencil and I'm just very lightly marking the top and the bottom of each letter. And I will be able to eyeball it now when I go to add the letters. If I traced because we created a drop shadow, the letters will not fit directly into our template. So I had to think of a way that I know where to place them that will be hidden without outlining the entire letter and then possibly having the pencil mark show. So I just marked the top and the bottom, and that will give me a guide as to where to place them. And it worked out very well that way. So now each letter I'll be able to place, and it will be perfectly spaced, just like it would have been in the template this way. And it hides those pencil marks because we've done the drop shadow. The top and the bottom are completely covered. So you don't even need to worry about those marks. And you see I put some glue and then I tap some off if I've gotten quite a bit on there. And that way you don't get your fingers in it, and you don't have it kind of spreading out and creating kind of, you know how when glue dries and sometimes you can see it, it's a little bit shiny. This way you don't get that. And we are almost to the end. So how cute is that silver embossed letters with that pink drop shadow. It goes perfectly with that pretty background. I love how this card turned out. No coloring involved, but two pretty backgrounds that do not detract from the focal point of our happy birthday. So here is the black die cut, and I'm just gluing that, and I'll tap off the glue. Now I have to admit, here's another flaw. I am not very good then about layering these up and not getting this script crooked. So I lay it on here, and I think in the end it's still a little bit crooked. I messed with it and messed with it, and thank goodness I had glued it and I had a little bit of wiggle room, but I think it's still a little bit high on the right side. But you know, this is a handmade card, and we all kind of know our limitations, and getting things straight is not mine. It's not one of my best qualities in card making, I have to say. But you know what? We do the best we can. And so I think I actually fix it a little bit by this little second part of the AY, since it's not connected to the D. I was able to pull it down just a little bit and make it look just a little bit better. So finally, I add, to finish the card, these gems that are called Speed of Light, and they are so pretty. They have all these different kinds of colors. So I add those, and there we go. Look at that pretty background that doesn't detract. It's perfect. I love it. Thanks so much for joining me today, and if you don't already follow, please subscribe to be notified for future videos, and please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, everybody.